Hi there. Today, climate, COVID, and chaos. The hard lessons I've learned in 2020. 2020 started out like any other year. I was glad to see the back of 2019 with its perpetual, vicious dialogue about climate change. I look forward to newer and better things. As early as January, though, the World Health Organization was warning us about the new coronavirus. They cautioned us, if we don't take urgent action, we'll have a pandemic. But we were slow on the uptake, and by the time governments closed things down, COVID-19 had already taken root. Later, when things started to reopen, many of us jumped right back into our old routines. We ignored sanitizing, masking, and social distancing guidelines. Folks gathered in large groups, and they even attacked those people who did follow public safety guidelines. And as we should have expected, new COVID cases took off. Now, Alberta leads Canada with COVID infections, and Edmonton leads Alberta. I see 2020 as a case study, how people react to risk. What do they do when faced with something scary and new that hasn't happened yet? In a dire emergency, like the Fort McMurray wildfire, people pitch in, they help each other out, and they even offer aid to complete strangers. Generally, people are pretty decent. But when we face something scary that's only projected to happen, the response is as predictable as it is bad. Folks push back. They demand evidence, and when they're presented with the evidence, they shoot the messenger. We draw up sides, and we waste critical time arguing and slagging each other. And we've seen all of this in 2020. COVID has become so contentious. Folks see simple things like wearing a mask as political statements, and they yell profanities and racial slurs at complete strangers in stores. Until the virus hits people personally, many still moan about overreaction. Meanwhile, COVID has become the third leading cause of death in the U.S., and it's well on its way to taking over second place. Most people don't have direct experience with COVID. For most of us, our grasp of COVID comes from chatting with friends and social media, and they're not the best sources of information. The COVID crisis has taken several months to evolve. It doesn't have the immediacy of a flood or wildfire. It feels remote, so it's easy to be complacent. If we perceive the onset of COVID to be slow, though, climate change is even slower. I like to call it the creeping crisis. It's unfolding over many years, perhaps generations, but it's building momentum, and it will be brutal in the long run. All the COVID denial tactics are familiar to any of us working in climate change. We see the same disregard and discrediting of experts, drawing up sides, nasty rhetoric, and accusation of fear-mongering. And finally, we may see acceptance when it hits folks directly. And when that happens, people demand to know why nothing was done to prevent this disaster. My mom was born in 1917. She never really understood my work through most of her life. And I often said when she finally got it, climate change would be mainstream. Just before she passed away at 90, she lectured me about the threat of climate change. She wondered who'd fix it. I'd finally made it. It takes a long time for folks to accept inconvenient truth, but they do get there eventually. I see this in COVID, and I'm seeing inklings of it in our climate work. As dark as 2020 has been, it's always darkest before the dawn. Stay safe. Until next time.